Hello and welcome. Whether you're listening in the quiet hours of the night or resting in a calm moment during the day, this gentle journey invites you to step into a world shaped by moonlight, desert air, and the steady rhythm of the Nile. Make yourself comfortable. Let your breath soften and slow. Allow the concerns of the present to fade as we drift into the peaceful evenings of ancient Egypt. This is how people slept in ancient Egypt, a serene, reflective exploration of rest, routine, and comfort in one of history's most enduring civilizations. Take a slow, steady breath. As you exhale, imagine the sun setting beyond palm trees and riverbanks, casting warm colors across mud brick homes. The heat of the day begins to loosen its grip. Families prepare for rest, rolling out woven mats and low wooden beds, while lamps glow softly with flickering oil flames. In this peaceful retelling, there is no urgency, no disturbance, only gentle observation. We move slowly through quiet households, noticing how sleep became a natural extension of daily life. Picture yourself inside a simple Egyptian home as night settles in. Cool air drifts through open doorways. Linen sheets rest lightly against the skin. Headrests of carved wood or stone cradle tired necks, designed for comfort in the warm climate. Beyond the walls, the Nile flows steadily, and stars reflect faintly on its surface. Though you remain safely where you are, you may sense the calm rhythm that guided ancient evenings, a balance of rest, belief, and renewal. In the chapters ahead, we'll explore how people in ancient Egypt slept, where they rested, what they used for bedding, how night routines were shaped by climate, culture, and belief, and how sleep connected to both daily life and the afterlife. We'll move gently through these moments, letting history unfold like a quiet night beneath a starlit desert sky. For now, settle in, breathe deeply, and allow this peaceful journey into ancient Egyptian sleep to begin. The sun drifts low over the horizon, painting the western sky in deep gold and rose. Daylight softens across the Nile Valley, and a calm quietude begins to settle over the land of Egypt. It is the sacred hour of twilight. Farmers in the fields pause to watch the sunset. Priests in temple courtyards offer final salutations to the sun god as he descends. The great river reflects the sky's colors in shimmering ribbons, and warm breezes carry the scent of water and silt. A lone fishing skiff glides upon the gentle current of the river, a small rushlight lantern flickering at its bow as the fisherman casts his net one last time against the amber sky. As the light fades, one by one, stars emerge in the east, tiny pinpricks of silver against the encroaching blue-black of night. In villages and cities alike, oil lamps are lit, their small flames flickering in doorways and windows. Seen from afar, the villages dotting the Nile's banks resemble clusters of fireflies as these little lights wink to life. It is a comforting sight, evidence that every family has a hearth to return to as night falls. A sense of peace envelops the two lands as people prepare for nightfall. The red glow of cooking hearths dims, and the rich scents of baked bread and stewed vegetables fade, replaced by the faint sweetness of jasmine and water lilies opening in the dark. Even far beyond the villages, out in the desert wastes or on a lonely road, small bands of travelers tend to their campfires and settle down to rest, grateful for the night's respite after the sun's punishing heat. This nightly rhythm is timeless, just as their ancestors have experienced it for countless generations. From the age of the pyramid builders in the Old Kingdom to the empire of the New Kingdom, the routine of night has remained reassuringly familiar. In a humble farming village, not far from the Nile's banks, a family readies their home for night. The village is a cluster of mud brick houses, low and square with flat roofs, all built from the sun-baked earth of the river's floodplain. Inside one such dwelling, the air is dusky and cool. The walls, made of thick mud bricks plastered with clay, have absorbed the sun's heat during the day and now slowly release warmth into the rooms. As twilight deepens, Hori, a farmer, finishes the day's last tasks in the courtyard of his home. Hori is a broad-shouldered man with skin bronzed by the sun. He wipes the sweat and dust from his brow with a linen cloth and smiles softly as he watches the sky change color. It was a long day of labor in the fields, clearing irrigation canals and tending rows of emmer wheat and barley under the blazing sun. Now the cool relief of evening is welcome. In the open courtyard, the scent of moist earth rises as Hori sprinkles a bit of water onto the ground. This is a nightly custom of his, to dampen the dusty yard so that a cool freshness will permeate the air. As the water splashes onto the ground from his simple clay jar, darkening the soil, he feels a gentle coolness breathe upward. Nearby, Hori's wife Layla is busy grinding grain to prepare the evening meal. Kneeling by a flat grinding stone, she uses a handheld stone to crush roasted barley, releasing a toasty, nutty aroma. Their two young children, Kem and Nala, sit close by, playing with a small pile of palm fibers and twigs, pretending the fibers are dolls, their imaginations lively even as night approaches. A scrawny cat, drawn by the promise of dinner scraps, winds through the courtyard, rubbing against Layla's legs. The sun has now vanished below the horizon, and a purple-blue dusk envelops the village. Layla sets aside her grinding stone and dusts off her hands. It is time to eat. From a small clay oven in the corner of the courtyard, she retrieves flat loaves of bread that were baked earlier, now cool and ready. The round loaves, made from the same barley Hori grew, have a dark, coarse crust. She also has a pot of lentil and onion stew that had been simmering slowly over the embers. By now the fire has died down to just a glow, casting a faint orange light on the earthen walls. Hori washes his hands and face with water from a pottery basin, cleansing away the day's sweat and dust. The water is cool, drawn from the family's well or a shared village well earlier in the day. As he pours the water over himself, the last light of dusk reflects briefly on the droplets. Clean and refreshed, he joins his family on a reed mat spread on the courtyard floor. Layla ladles the hearty stew into simple ceramic bowls. The children eagerly tear off pieces of bread to dip. They eat together under the open sky. Overhead, the first stars have multiplied into dozens, then hundreds. The Milky Way begins to glisten like a faint white ribbon across the heavens, a sight the family often admires. Tonight, little Kem points up with a piece of bread clutched in his small hand, marveling at the gathering stars. Layla smiles and explains, as she has many times, the story of the sky goddess Nut. Those stars, she says, are Nut's sparkling jewels, adorning the great goddess who arches her dark body over the earth to protect it each night. She reminds them how each evening Nut swallows the fiery sun to keep him safe in her starry belly through the darkness, and at dawn she gives birth to the sun anew so that light returns to the world. Kem's eyes grow wide at the familiar tale, and Nala coos softly, comforted by the idea of a loving goddess watching over them from above. Hori chews his bread slowly, savoring the rest after the day's hard work, and gazes upward along with his children. In the far distance, perhaps from another farm, a cow lows softly. Closer by, he can hear neighbors murmuring gentle conversation as they too dine outdoors. From the direction of the Nile, he hears the faint splash of a boatman's oar and the honk of wild geese winging low. Over the water, morning sounds carrying through the still air of evening. The village around them is settling into stillness. Shadows deepen as the last glow of twilight fades in the west. One by one, households finish their suppers. The smell of wood smoke and cooking drifts lightly on the air, gradually giving way to the subtle fragrance of night-blooming jasmine from a nearby bush. Hori's family sits in contentment as dusk becomes night. A crescent moon, low and silver, hangs on the horizon, adding its pale light to the scene. After dinner, Layla gathers the bowls, and Hori helps rinse them with a splash of water. Cleanliness is important to them, as to all Egyptians, for it honors the gods and brings comfort. The children, now drowsy with full bellies, lean against their father. Little Nala rubs her eyes and rests her head on Hori's arm. Noticing the girl's sleepy state, Layla gently lifts her into her arms. "Time for bed, my lotus flower," Layla whispers to her daughter. Nala wraps her small arms around her mother's neck, already halfway to dreamland. Kem toddles behind, clutching a ragged scrap of linen that is his favorite comfort cloth. Hori smiles and picks up an oil lamp from a ledge. He lights it with a tinder spark. The wick catches, blooming into a small, steady flame. The lamp's glow illuminates the humble one-room interior of their house as they step inside. Indoors, the single room of their home is simple but homey. By the mellow light of the lamp, the painted clay plaster on the walls takes on a warm hue. In one corner stands a tall, woven basket where grain is stored. In another, a small household shrine with a figurine of the protective dwarf god Bes grins outward, its lion-like face meant to ward off pests and evil. The furniture is minimal: a low wooden stool, a rough-hewn chest for clothing, and a rolled-up reed mat that serves as bedding. Layla lays Nala down on the reed mat and covers her with a lightweight linen sheet. Hori helps little Kem change into a clean linen tunic for sleeping. The boy is yawning, his eyelids heavy. When Kem is settled, Hori steps back outside briefly to feel the night air. The heat of the day has dissipated further. A gentle breeze rustles through the nearby date palms. The sky is now fully dark and brimming with stars. It is a beautiful night to sleep under the open sky, he thinks. He calls softly to his wife, and together they carry the children, still wrapped in their light coverings, up a wooden ladder that leads to the flat rooftop of their house. The lamp comes with them, its flame dancing in the slight wind as Hori shields it with his hand. On the roof, the air is cooler and fresher. This being the warm season, the family takes advantage of the open sky and breeze. In the chill of winter, they would instead bundle up and sleep by the hearth indoors. But on a balmy night like this, the rooftop is ideal. All around, other families are also settling on their roofs. Hori can see a few silhouettes of neighbors spreading mats and hear quiet voices wishing each other good night across the rooftops. The roof of Hori's house is a modest space, bordered by a low parapet wall for safety. Earlier in the day, Layla had left several woven mats and cushions up here to air out in the sun. They now lay them out side by side to form a comfortable sleeping area for the family. The mats are woven from dried reeds and rushes gathered by the river, providing a bit of cushioning against the clay roof surface. Layla unrolls another small pad filled with straw to serve as a pillow for the children, while Hori adjusts a wooden headrest for himself. The headrest is a simple curved piece of wood on a short stand designed to support the head and keep it cool. Though it may seem strange to some, Hori has always preferred it to a pillow. It lifts his head just enough to catch the slight breeze and also prevents any crawling insects on the roof from easily reaching his face. They extinguish the oil lamp now, as the moon and stars provide ample light. Under the vast expanse of the night sky, the family settles down. Layla lies on one side of the children, Hori on the other, creating a cocoon of parental warmth around Kem and Nala. The little ones snuggle close to their parents. Nala instinctively curls her tiny body against her mother, and Layla strokes the girl's hair, humming a familiar lullaby. Her voice is soft and low, barely more than a murmur in the stillness. It is an ancient cradle song learned from her own mother, and she sings of the night sky. Sleep, precious one, under the loving sky. Nut spreads her stars to watch where you lie. Sleep, little one, till the dawn's golden light. Your heart is protected through the gentle night. The melody is slow and soothing. As Layla sings, Hori finds his own eyes growing heavy. He drapes an arm over his son, who has already closed his eyes. The stars above seem to listen as, well, shimmering quietly. Overhead, the Milky Way arches like a celestial river. In Egyptian lore, it is sometimes called the Nile of the sky. Hori gazes at it and feels a profound sense of peace. It comforts him to think that as they sleep, the goddess Nut will carry the sun through the darkness in her celestial body, and by morning the sun will be reborn for a new day. The sounds of the village at night are gentle. Crickets hidden in the grasses by the river chirp a steady chorus. A night bird coos softly from a nearby rooftop. Far off in the fields, there might be the faint, jackal-like laugh of a hyena out on the desert edge, distant enough to be part of the natural soundtrack of an Egyptian night rather than a threat. Closer by, a neighbor's baby gives a brief cry, quickly hushed with a few whispered words and lulled back to sleep. Hori feels the weight of sleep tugging at him. Before he closes his eyes, he murmurs a quiet prayer into the darkness. "O Bess, keep us safe through the night. O kind gods, let us wake healthy with the sunrise." It is a spontaneous, heartfelt plea for protection, addressed not to any one formal deity of the state, but to the comforting household spirits he believes guard his family. He has faith that the night is a time of renewal and rest, watched over by benevolent forces. Soon, under the canopy of stars, the farmer and his family drift into a peaceful slumber. Layla's lullaby has trailed off. The children are breathing deeply in the rhythm of sleep. Hori's hand still rests on his son's back, protectively, even as he too slips into dreaming. Above them, the constellations shine in silent vigil. In this little village, as in countless villages up and down the Nile, an Egyptian family sleeps soundly, embraced by the mild summer night and the eternal comfort of their traditions. While the farmer's household finds rest, elsewhere in the land of Egypt, others too are ending their day and seeking sleep. In a grand villa within a prosperous town, a noblewoman watches the same sunset hues linger in the sky. Merit is her name, and she is the lady of an esteemed household. As twilight deepens, Merit stands on her open-air upper balcony, which overlooks a private garden. Tall date palms and acacia trees sway gently, casting long shadows over a rectangular lily pond at the center of the garden. By day, the pond's blue water lilies open to the sun. Now in evening, the lilies have folded their petals, floating like green cups on the dark water. The air here is tinged with the sweet perfume of jasmine and the cooling dampness of watered plants. Servants earlier in the evening have sprinkled water along the garden paths and courtyard bricks, a practice much like Hori's in his village, to cool the air for the night. Merit is draped in a flowing white linen gown, lighter and more loosely woven than the ornate pleated dresses she wears in daytime. Free from the weight of formal jewelry and wig, her shoulders relax. Her natural hair, black and cut to her chin, is brushed smooth. A gentle-faced handmaiden, Tia, stands behind her, carefully undoing the tight braids of Merit's ceremonial wig and massaging her scalp with delicate fingers. Merit closes her eyes for a moment, enjoying the relief and the feeling of the night breeze on her neck. On a polished wooden side table nearby, an alabaster lamp flickers with a small flame. Its light is soft, filtered through the translucent stone, giving Merit's balcony a golden glow. As darkness gathers, Tia lights a second lamp and places it at the far end of the terrace to ensure the area is gently illuminated. The lamps burn fragrant oil pressed from blue lotuses, a luxury scent in this household, and the subtle floral aroma wafts through the air. Merit takes a sip from a cup of pomegranate wine diluted with cool water. The tart sweetness refreshes her after a warm day. Dinner in her household was a refined affair. Earlier in the evening, roast duck with figs and coriander, lentils with garlic, and honey-sweetened date cakes for dessert. Now, with the meal over and servants having cleared away the dishes, the noblewoman savors a few quiet moments. Below in the garden, she hears the faint trickle of a small fountain built in the likeness of a lion's head, spouting water into the pond, a soothing, rhythmic sound. From her vantage point, Merit gazes beyond her garden walls at the town around her. The settlement is growing tranquil as night falls. Distant sounds of urban life fade, a creaking cartwheel on a street, a final call from a merchant closing his stall. In the distance, she can make out the silhouette of a great temple pylon against the dim orange band of the horizon. Closer by, other grand homes of officials and nobles are settling for the night. She notices lanterns being lit in a neighbor's upper windows and hears a faint laugh from someone enjoying an evening breeze on their rooftop. All is calm. Merit's own estate is spacious. Her villa's walls are painted with motifs of lotus flowers and marsh birds in vibrant pigments of blue, green, and ochre. Even in the lamplight, she can discern the artwork's outlines on the plaster. These scenes of nature comfort her. They remind her of the fertile Nile marshes and symbolize renewal. Tonight, one painting in particular catches the flicker of the lamp. a depiction of the sky goddess Nut arching protectively over the earth, her body painted a deep midnight blue and sprinkled with golden stars. Merritt smiles at the image. It reassures her that even as she stands here, Nut has indeed spread herself above in reality, and soon the goddess will cradle everyone under her starry body as they sleep. The air grows cooler by small degrees, and Merritt feels a slight chill on her bare arms. She picks up a light shawl of woven linen and wraps it around her shoulders. Sensing the night's advance, Tia quietly asks if she should prepare Merritt's bedchamber. Merritt nods softly, giving her attendant a kind smile. "Yes, thank you, Tia. That would be nice," she says in a low, unhurried voice. As Tia retreats indoors to ready the bedroom, Merritt lingers a moment longer on the balcony. She closes her eyes and takes a deep breath of the night air. Above, the sky is nearly black now and filled with stars beginning to sparkle visibly. A half moon has risen, silver and serene. In the garden, crickets have begun their nocturnal song. The breeze carries the sound of palm fronds gently clattering and the fragrance of night-blooming flowers from somewhere in the neighborhood, perhaps queen of the night blossoms opening in darkness. It is a tranquil symphony of scent and sound. After offering a silent prayer of gratitude for the peaceful day that has passed, Merritt steps inside. The floors of her villa are cool stone tiles, pleasant against her feet after the warmth of the day. She pads down a short painted corridor to her private bedchamber. The room is spacious and comfortable, designed to invite restful sleep. By the time she enters, Tia has already lit a pair of oil lamps inside, which cast a gentle glow over the room's elegant furnishings. Against one wall, Merritt's bed awaits. Unlike the simple bedding of a farmer, her bed is a crafted work of art. It stands on four legs carved to resemble the paws of a lion, symbols of strength and protection. Each leg is gilded and finely detailed. Indeed, tiny images of Bess are etched into the wood, peering out as if to guard the sleeper from harm. The bed frame is made of smooth, dark hardwood imported from faraway lands, inlaid with a pattern of gold and ivory. Woven straps of leather and flax form the springy base that supports the sleeping surface. On top lies a mattress lightly stuffed with down feathers and soft wool, a rare and costly comfort. Over this, fine linen sheets are spread, white and cool to the touch. A light woven blanket of undyed wool is folded neatly at the foot of the bed, to be pulled up if the desert night grows unexpectedly cool before dawn. Merritt approaches a polished ebony vanity table, where a bronze mirror and an array of small glass and alabaster jars sit. The mirror reflects her calm face. With Tia's help, she removes the last of her jewelry, 2 gold bangles from her wrists and a pendant depicting the goddess Hathor from around her neck. She feels instantly lighter, as though shedding the day's formalities. Hathor's pendant, in the shape of a cow-eared woman, is placed reverently by the mirror. Merritt touches it and silently thanks the goddess of love and joy, who also can bring peaceful sleep. Next, she cleanses herself before bed. In a corner of the room, Tia has set a ceramic basin of water infused with dried chamomile and rose petals. The gentle herbal aroma rises with the steam. Merritt dips a linen cloth in the warm water and cleans her hands, face, and feet. The day's kohl eyeliner is carefully wiped from her eyes, and the dust of the city is washed from her skin. With each cooling pass of the damp cloth, she feels more relaxed. The water in the basin glistens with a few drops of fragrant oil. Tia had added a bit of lotus essence, so now Merritt's skin carries a light, sweet scent into bed with her. Satisfied that she is refreshed and clean, the noblewoman finally moves to her bed. Tia turns down the sheet, and Merritt sits on the edge of the bed frame, her feet dangling a few inches above the floor due to the bed's height. It is pleasantly elevated, an intentional design to catch the breeze and stay above any drafts. Tia helps arrange a large cushioned headrest for her mistress. The headrest is a luxury version of the common Egyptian design, a curved wooden support, but padded with layers of soft linen and stuffed with duck down inside a fine cloth cover. When Merritt reclines, this headrest will cradle her neck and keep her head slightly raised. Before lying down, Merritt has one more nightly ritual. She walks over to a household shrine set into a niche in the wall. The niche is draped with a small woven tapestry depicting protective symbols, the Eye of Horus and the Ankh. Within the shrine stands a graceful figurine of the goddess Isis holding baby Horus. In front of it is a tiny altar table where incense can be burned. Merritt kneels on a cushion before this shrine. She lights a pinch of frankincense from a lamp flame and places it in a bronze incense dish. A curl of sweet smoke rises, filling the room with a sacred scent. With her hands gently clasped, Merritt closes her eyes and whispers a prayer, barely audible. She prays for the safety of her household through the night. She asks Isis, the great divine mother, to watch over her young son, who sleeps in the next room under the nurse's care. Though her boy is not with her at this moment, she imagines him sleeping peacefully, and she entrusts him to the goddess's protection until morning. She also offers thanks for the blessings of the day, for the food, the family, and the tranquility that now surrounds her. When the incense has nearly burned out, Merritt rises. Tia has quietly slipped out to an adjoining antechamber to give her mistress privacy and to rest nearby if needed. In the stillness, Merritt eases herself onto her bed. She stretches out atop the cool sheets, feeling the gentle support of the woven bed beneath the soft mattress. The linen of her nightgown and the sheets is smooth against her skin, having been laundered until it reached a perfect softness. Through the open windows of her chamber, the night air drifts in. The windows are large rectangular openings, high on the walls, covered with decorative wooden latticework to allow breezes while keeping out inquisitive eyes and insects. Tonight, Merritt has drawn aside the lightweight curtains that hang there, wanting to enjoy the full breath of night. As a result, she can hear faint noises from outside, the distant hoot of an owl in a palm grove, and the far-off notes of a flute playing a gentle melody, perhaps a late musician serenading the moon. The sounds are soothing, not intrusive. Merritt lies on her back for a moment, gazing up at her ceiling. It is painted a deep blue and sprinkled with gold stars, an artistic mirror of the sky above. In the lamplight, the golden stars seem to flicker. Many noble Egyptians choose such decoration for their bedrooms, believing it inviting to pleasant dreams. The effect now is indeed charming. In the soft glow, the painted stars overhead appear to twinkle along with the real stars outside. Merritt's eyes grow heavy as she takes in this familiar sight. She rolls onto her side, finding her most comfortable sleeping pose, and nestles her head against the padded headrest. A contented sigh escapes her lips. Beside the bed, a carved ebony stand holds a final lamp, its flame turned low. The household will leave one lamp, burning through part of the night, a nightlight of sorts, until it eventually sputters out. Its presence is comforting, casting gentle shadows that sway on the painted walls. As she drifts, Merritt thinks for a moment of her family ancestors. On a shelf across the room stand small busts and figurines, representing those beloved spirits. She offers them a drowsy smile from afar, recalling the tales her father told her of how the ancestors watch over the family at all times, especially at night when the veil between worlds thins. In her mind, she pictures her late grandmother's face, kindly and wise, telling her as a child that night is a gift from the gods, a time for the body to recover and the soul to wander freely in the land of dreams. Dream well, and the gods will send you guidance, her grandmother used to say. Now Merritt whispers into the quiet, "May it be so." Feeling safe and comforted, she allows her eyes to fully close. Through the wall, a faint melody reaches her ears, the muffled voice of her son's nurse, humming a lullaby to coax the little one to sleep. The tune is slow and soothing, a repetitive chant invoking Hathor's gentle love to ward off bad dreams. Merritt smiles at the sound, knowing her child is being tenderly cared for and is likely already drifting to dreamland, eases the last worry from her mind. Before long, the noblewoman's breathing slows and deepens, and she too slips into a deep, restful sleep. Her face in repose looks youthful and serene, illuminated faintly by the silver moonlight filtering through the lattice. In the garden outside her window, the fountain continues its lullaby of rippling water, and the scented breeze guards her dreams. Some distance away, within the high walls of the great temple of Amun in Thebes, the day's final light has faded from the sky. The sanctuary lies in gathering darkness. Anku, a devoted priest, walks slowly through the hypostyle hall. As dusk gives way to night, the towering papyrus-shaped columns loom around him, their carved hieroglyphs and sacred scenes barely visible in the dimness. High above, the temple's ceiling is painted deep blue and spangled with golden stars, much like Merritt's bedroom ceiling, but here on a monumental scale. By day, this hall was filled with shafts of sunlight. Now it is illuminated by just a few oil lamps that priests have placed at strategic points to guide their steps as they perform the last duties of the evening. Anku carries one such oil lamp in his hand. Its flame dances, casting gigantic flickering shadows of the columns and statues onto the stone floor. With measured steps, he approaches the sanctuary where the great statue of Amun resides, deep in the heart of the temple. Earlier at sunset, he and the other priests performed the ritual of the evening offering, presenting incense and cool water, and then securing the doors of the god's shrine for the night. The inner sanctum is now closed, its precious contents safely locked behind gilded wooden doors. Anku pauses before those doors, which are adorned with the image of Ma'at, the personification of divine truth and order, and sealed with a strip of linen and a clay seal stamped by the high priest's signet. He bows his head in respect and murmurs a final good night to the unseen presence of the god within. All is as it should be until morning, O Amun, he whispers reverently. The faint scent of frankincense still lingers in the cool stone chamber, a soothing perfume that clings to the temple walls from the day's ceremonies. Anku breathes it in, finding that it calms his mind and spirit. He feels a deep sense of peace in this hallowed space. The worries of the world fall away here, where the gods dwell so near. He gently places his lamp on a ledge for a moment and moves to extinguish larger torches that are no longer needed. One by one, he snuffs out the flames in nearby chambers using a bronze extinguisher shaped like a lotus bud, leaving just his lamp and a couple of others to light the priest's quarters. The temple is now largely in darkness, save for the silvery beams of moonlight that filter through high clear-story slits. Those narrow openings near the ceiling allow the night air and a bit of the outside world into this sacred interior. Tonight, shafts of moonlight fall across the central aisle, illuminating particles of incense smoke still hanging in the air from the earlier worship. Anku retrieves his lamp and makes his way toward the open courtyard. As he steps outside the main hall, the full brilliance of the night sky reveals itself overhead. The temple's columned courtyard is quiet and bathed in pale moonlight. The tall flagstaffs at the front of the temple gateway stand silhouetted and motionless in the still air. He can see countless stars above the massive entrance pylons. Beyond the enclosure walls, the city of Thebes stretches out, but its noise does not penetrate. Here, only a muted sense of its presence. Within these walls, there is an oasis of calm. Beside the courtyard lies the sacred lake, a broad pool of water that gleams under the moon. This lake is used for ritual purification by the priest throughout the day. Even now, at night, the water's surface is mirror-like and inviting. The reflection of the moon shimmers on it, broken only occasionally by the ripple of a fish or the plop of a frog at the water's edge. Around the far side of the lake, papyrus reeds stir gently. Anku decides to perform one last cleansing ritual before sleep, an act both of devotion and of personal comfort. Setting his lamp safely on a stone step, he undoes his white linen robe and slips into the cool water. The lake's water embraces him up to his chest. He suppresses a small gasp as his body adjusts to the cool temperature. Then he feels refreshed. Overhead, the moon and stars watch as he cups water in his hands and pours it over his shaved head and shoulders, silently reciting a short prayer taught to all temple priests. Wash me pure, O sacred lake of Amun. Wash away the dust of the day and the burden of sin. As the moon renews the night, so I am renewed. I am clean before the gods. He dips under the water briefly, eyes open to see the wavering vision of the moon above from beneath. In this moment, Anku feels a profound unity with the natural and divine world, the cool element of water, the glow of the moon, which he regards as the eye of the moon god Khonsu gazing down, and the distant pinpoints of the eternal stars. This simple nocturnal bath cleanses not only the perspiration and fatigue from his body, but also the clutter from his mind. Stepping out of the lake, Anku allows the desert air to dry his skin. In the arid climate, the water on his body cools him rapidly as it evaporates. He dons his white linen robe again, now feeling pleasantly chilled and utterly clean. Small droplets of water cling to his arms in the moonlight and then vanish. He retrieves the lamp from the step and quietly traverses the courtyard toward the modest quarters where he sleeps. The priest's living chambers are along one side of the temple's interior enclosure. These rooms are simple mud brick cells with minimal furnishings, meant for resting between duties. Anku shares these quarters with a handful of fellow priests when they are on their month of service, but tonight he has a small room to himself. The others have gone home to their families after completing the sunset rites. He pushes aside a wooden door and enters his chamber. It is a small, rectangular space with a mat on the floor for sleeping and a reed basket for his personal belongings. The lamplight reveals walls whitewashed with lime, giving a sense of cleanliness and austerity. On one wall hangs a tiny shelf holding a few precious items: a rolled papyrus of holy texts, a string of prayer beads made of blue faience, and a little clay figurine of Thoth, the god of wisdom and the moon, whom Anku particularly venerates. Thoth, depicted as an ibis-headed man, is believed to protect those who seek knowledge and truth, even in darkness. Anku smiles at the figurine and touches it gently as a familiar reassurance. He places the lamp on the floor by the mat. Before reclining, Anku kneels in prayer, much as Merit did at her shrine, but with a different focus. Here, in the quiet of his chamber, he offers thanks to the gods for allowing him to serve another day in the temple. He prays to Amun, thanking the Hidden One for his guidance and protection. He murmurs a short hymn to Khonsu, the moon god, whose gentle light is streaming through the high-grilled window of his room. The moonbeams create a lattice pattern on the opposite wall. Khonsu, great traveler of the night, Anku intones softly, as you sail across the sky, bring calm and healing in your wake. Watch over those who sleep and chase away bad dreams. Dreams hold significant meaning for Anku. As a priest well-versed in spiritual lore, he knows of the temple practice wherein people sometimes come seeking messages or healing through dreams, a practice known as dream incubation. In fact, next to the temple of Amun stands a smaller temple dedicated to Khonsu, where the sick or troubled occasionally spend the night in hopes of receiving a revealing dream. Anku has at times assisted those supplicants, guiding them through prayers and watching over their hopeful slumber. Tonight, as he prepares for his own rest, he thinks of this and feels kinship with any who might be lying on a temple cot nearby, waiting for divine insight. In his heart he prays, "If it please the gods, send us kindly dreams, and let our spirits wander in blessed realms till morning." Having completed his prayers, Anku finally sits on his mat. The floor is cool beneath him. He removes a small wooden headrest that was tucked beside the mat. Much like Hori's, it is a curved support on a pedestal, but the wood here is carved with protective symbols. Along the arch of the headrest are tiny engravings of Ma'at's feather and the symbols for life and stability. Anku wraps a soft linen cloth around it. A bit of cushioning he prefers, since he will sleep directly on it. Lying down, Anku adjusts the headrest under his head, finding the spot where it supports his neck just right. He stretches out on the reed mat, which has been loosely stuffed with straw for some padding. It is not luxurious by any means, but after the day's labors, it feels sufficient and welcoming. The white linen robe he wears doubles as a sleeping garment. He pulls its loose folds over himself like a light blanket. The night sounds within the temple are a lullaby in their own right. From beyond the chamber, echoing through the stone corridors, comes the occasional soft coo of a dove roosting in the temple eaves. Crickets chirp in the gardens around the sacred lake. There is a distant metallic clink, perhaps a temple guard making his round, the bronze amulet on his chest plate tapping gently against his spear shaft as he walks. These faint noises assure Anku that all is well, that life continues its gentle rhythm even in the darkness. As he rests, Anku reflects on an ancient belief that during sleep, his Baha, the soul bird, might rise from his body to roam freely. Painted on the wall near his sleeping mat is a tiny image of a human-headed bird, a reminder of the soul's night journeys. He whispers a line from memory, something he once read in a papyrus. When my eyes close, let my Ba bird fly safely and return with the morning light. Imagining his soul as a little bird gliding under Nut's starry sky is comforting to him. It is a promise that though he becomes inert, like the dead during sleep, he will awaken, reunited with his essence at dawn. A cool draft wafts through the high window, and Anku pulls his robe blanket a bit tighter. He glances once more at the shaft of moonlight on his wall and sees it aligning with a familiar star pattern he recognizes. It reminds him that midnight is approaching. Deep in the subterranean world, he knows, the sun god Ra battles the great serpent of chaos during these darkest hours. But Anku does not fear the outcome. Every night, through Ma'at's order and the prayers of the righteous, Ra prevails and is reborn at dawn. Secure in this knowledge, Anku allows himself to surrender to sleep. His breathing slows and his eyes drift shut. In the silent sanctuary of his chamber, within the holy precinct of the temple, the priest sleeps, feeling the nearness of the divine even in his dreams. The presence of Amun seems to hover like an unseen guardian. The glow of Khonsu's moon gilds the edges of the darkness. Anku's last conscious thought is a gentle one, a vision of the vast night sky stretching over the Nile, and a feeling that all the people of Egypt are sleeping beneath it like children under the protective wings of a great golden falcon. With that comforting image, he too slips into a deep, tranquil sleep. In another part of Thebes, nestled against the foothills of the western desert cliffs, lies a special village of artisans who build and decorate the royal tombs. In this tight-knit community of skilled workers, the day's labors ended with the setting sun, and now evening brings a well-deserved rest. Senmut, a painter of tomb walls and reliefs, sits with his wife Nadja atop the flat roof of their home. They have climbed up after their simple supper to catch the night breeze and spend a quiet moment together under the stars. Senmut is a man in early middle age, his fingers still slightly stained with ochre and blue pigment even after washing. Nadja teases him about the speckles of color that never quite leave his hands, marks of his artistry that she finds endearing. She gently ruspers a bit of scented oil into his palms, a nightly ritual to soften the calluses earned from holding brushes and pigment stones all day. The fragrant oil smells of myrrh and green herbs. As she massages his work-worn hands, Senmut closes his eyes, enjoying the relief and the cool breeze on his face. Their roof is a small, familiar space, bordered by low walls. From here they can see the dark outlines of the limestone cliffs that hide the Valley of the Kings, where Senmut works carving and painting in the tombs. By moonlight, those cliffs glint faintly, guarding their secrets. Nadja has spread a woven reed mat on the rooftop for them to sit upon. Beside them, a small clay jar of beer and 2 cups suggest their humble after-dinner treat. The beer is home brewed, thick with barley and slightly tart. Nadja pours a bit into each cup. They sip slowly, letting the day's heat dissipate from their bodies. The couple speaks in low voices about the events of the day. Senmut describes a section of tomb painting he completed. A scene of stars on the ceiling of a royal burial chamber. I painted Nut's body stretched across the sky, with silver stars just like those above us now, he says softly, gesturing upward. Nadja tilts her head back to look at the real night sky, smiling as she imagines the art her husband brought to life, deep underground. She feels proud knowing his work will adorn the pharaoh's eternal resting place, a constellation of stars to guide the royal soul. Nadja recounts her own day, grinding grain, tending their small kitchen garden, and trading gossip with the neighbor women while fetching water from the community well. Her voice is content. She too is tired in a pleasant way after completing her chores and weaving a new reed basket in the afternoon. Now, under the stars, those tasks are behind her. She leans against Senmut's shoulder. They fall into a companionable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of their village preparing for sleep. From a nearby rooftop comes the soft murmur of another artisan family murmuring an evening prayer. Gentle laughter drifts from farther down the row of houses, a few men sharing a final joke or a game of Senate, a board game, before turning in. A baby's brief cry is heard, only to be quickly soothed by a mother's crooning and the faint melody of a lullaby, not unlike the one Layla sang in her distant village. These familiar sounds reassure Senmut and Nadja. They underscore the sense of community that binds the villagers. Everyone here works side by side in the tombs by day and lives side by side in these modest homes by night. They are like one extended family, and the couple feels secure within this close world. A gentle breeze puffs through the village lanes, bringing with it the scent of sandstone dust from the nearby work site, mingled with the aroma of bread baked earlier in the evening. Overhead, the sky is brilliant with starlight, even more dazzling out here near the desert than in the heart of the city. The Milky Way pours across the sky like a celestial river of milk. Senmut gazes upward, familiar with many of the stars by name, the star that rises just before dawn, the stars that form Orion, whom the Egyptians associate with Osiris, and others that he uses to tell time during the night. Sometimes artisans, including Senmut, are called for extra duty to work by lamplight inside a tomb. On those occasions, emerging into the night and seeing the constellations above is a relief and a reminder of the broader cosmos beyond the lamplit chamber. Tonight, however, is a night of rest, and Senmut can simply enjoy the sky's beauty with no rush and no burden. Feeling a poetic urge stir within him, Senmut reaches over to a small wooden box he brought up to the roof. From it, he takes an ostrakhan, a flat shard of limestone used for sketching and writing notes. By the light of a little oil lamp Nadja has lit, he reads a few lines of a love poem he once copied onto the ostrakhan. In a soft voice, meant for his wife's ears alone, he recites, "My heart unlocks when the night breezes blow, for I hear your sigh in the silence. The stars above are our secret lanterns. I see your beauty by their light. Come to me in dreams, O my beloved, like soft music in the darkness." Nadja closes her eyes as she listens, letting the words wash over her. Even though she has heard this poem before, Each time it makes her smile and blush like a new bride. She knows her husband is not a scribe by trade, yet his soul is as creative with words as it is with paints. When he finishes, she reaches for his hand and gives it a tender squeeze. In the quiet that follows, the two simply watch the heavens, the bond between them strengthened by moments like this. After a time, Nadja notices that Senmut's head is nodding slightly with weariness. His day of precise painting and climbing wooden scaffolds in close, hot tomb corridors has caught up with him. She herself suppresses a yawn. "Shall we go down to bed?" she suggests gently. Senmut agrees, blinking slowly as he rouses himself. The oil lamp's flame is fluttering low, nearly out of oil. Together they gather up the lamp and the empty beer jar and descend the narrow stairway into their home. Inside their house, the air is cooler now than it was in the daytime, thanks to thick walls that kept out the sun's heat. In the main room, faint moonlight seeps through a small grilled window, just enough to see shapes. Senmut adds the tiniest pinch of oil to the lamp to give them a little light to settle in by. The interior of the home is modest, but comfortable for a skilled worker's family. The walls are decorated with a few simple paintings Senmut did to brighten the space. A cheerful fishing scene by the Nile on one wall, and on another, the goddess Hathor pouring blessings from a jar. Low stools, a woven basket of clothing, and a shelf with pottery cups and bowls are arranged neatly. In a corner stands a household shrine much like Hori's, with figures of Bes and the hippopotamus goddess Teweret to watch over the home. Against the back wall lies their bed. It is a humble wooden bed frame, one that Senmut built himself a few years ago using local acacia wood. He remembers fashioning it shortly after their wedding, smoothing the timber and lashing the cords with pride, determined that they would have a sturdy, comfortable place to lay their heads, and not just a pallet on the floor as in their childhood days. The legs are short and stout, not carved into animal shapes, but simply functional. Across the frame, a net of linen cords is tightly woven, providing a springy base. Over this, Nadja has laid a thick mat, stuffed with straw and covered in a smooth linen sheet. A rolled blanket made of linen and a bit of wool is set aside at the foot in case the desert night grows chilly toward morning. Nadja attends to a last small chore, making sure the household's hearth ember is safely covered so it can be rekindled in the morning. Meanwhile, Senmut stretches and eases himself onto the bed with a soft groan of relief as his muscles relax. He has placed the flickering lamp on a niche in the wall. Its warm glow dances across the painted fishing scene, making it look almost alive with motion. In the quiet, he can hear his own breathing slowing and the distant chirp of insects outside. Nadja soon joins him, climbing onto the bed and sitting by his feet for a moment. She reaches down and lightly massages his calves, which often ache after crouching on ladders in the tomb. Senmut smiles appreciatively, feeling the tension melt away under her familiar, caring touch. "Thank you, my love," he whispers. In response, she gently pats his leg and then moves to lie down beside him. They lie on the bed, side by side. The frame creaks softly under their shifting weight, then settles. Nadja pulls a portion of the linen sheet over them. It is a comfortable covering, not too heavy, just enough to drape their bodies. They face each other in the near dark, and Senmut brushes a stray lock of hair from Nadja's forehead. In that tender gesture, a whole conversation of affection passes without words. After a few minutes, Nadja's breathing evens out. The day has caught up with her as well. Senmut watches her drift into sleep, her face looking serene in the lamplight. He quietly thanks the gods for her presence and for the companionship they share. His eyes wander to the shrine in the corner, where the little figurines of Bess and Tauret stand. Remembering the protective deities' grinning and benign faces, Senmut silently invokes them. Bess, guardian of the night, keep harm far from our door. Tauret, gentle protector, let no evil approach. A tiny gecko, hunting for moths along the wall, clicks its tongue, a welcome little alien keeping insects at bay. The thought makes him smile. Even nature's small creatures play a part in keeping their home safe and restful. Senmut leans over and gently blows out their oil lamp. The flame wavers and vanishes, leaving the room in restful darkness, save for a glimmer of moonlight edging the window. In the darkness, the artisan feels the comforting weight of Nadja's hand resting in his. He closes his eyes, and images of the day's painted stars in the tomb mingle with the real stars he saw outside. Those stars now swirl in his mind's eye, carrying him gently toward dreams. In his drowsiness, he remembers something his master once told him. We work by day so that royalty may sleep under painted heavens by night, but we all sleep under the same heavens given by the gods. How true, Senmut thinks, as sleep finally claims him. Whether high-born or low, all are equal in sleep, sheltered by the same sky. With a heart full of contentment, in a home filled with love and modest security, the artisan drifts off. His village by the desert is silent now, save for the natural lullabies of the night. Senmut and Nadja sleep peacefully, entwined in each other's arms, their breaths slow and in unison as the eternal stars keep watch above. In the royal residence across the river, the pharaoh's palace, which sprawls like a small city unto itself, grand halls and ornate chambers lie mostly dark and silent now. The courtyards and colonnades that bustled with activity in daylight are hushed, lit only by an occasional torch or the soft glow of the rising moon. In the servants' wing near the palace kitchens, a young servant named Beck quietly lays out his bedding for the night. Beck works in the palace kitchens as an assistant baker. His day began before dawn, stoking fires and grinding grain for the pharaoh's bread, and it ended late in the evening after cleaning the last pots from the royal supper. Now, at long last, he has a few hours to rest. The large kitchen around him is shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the embers of the baking hearth and a single clay lamp set on a high shelf. The glow of the coals bathes the room in a faint red-orange blush, casting long shadows of hanging pots and tall clay jars that store flour and oil. The aroma of the day's baking still lingers, a comforting blend of yeast, wood smoke, and spice. Beck's sleeping place is a simple straw-filled mattress that he keeps rolled up in a corner during the day. He unrolls it now on the cool stone floor near the warmth of the hearth. The stones underfoot still hold a bit of the heat from the ovens that were ablaze hours earlier, and that residual warmth feels good on his tired body. He spreads a coarse linen blanket over the mattress. It's not large, but enough to cover him. His pillow is nothing more than a bundled-up cloak, which he positions at one end of the mattress. He shares this kitchen space with another kitchen boy, who is already fast asleep on his own mat across the room. softly snoring. Beck moves quietly so as not to disturb his companion. He tiptoes to a ceramic water jar by the wall, pours a cup, and drinks slowly. The water is cool on his tongue, washing away the smoky aftertaste of the kitchen that he's grown used to. As he drinks, he gazes around the dim kitchen. By the weak lamplight, he can make out the familiar silhouettes. The broad table where he kneaded dough this morning, now cleared and wiped clean. The tall shelves laden with amphoras of dates, honey, and beer for tomorrow's meals, and bunches of dried herbs, marjoram, coriander, thyme, hanging from the rafters, their fragrance faintly perfuming the air. It's hard to believe that only a short while ago this kitchen was bright with firelight and bustling with activity. Cooks shouting orders, servants scurrying with trays of food, the bustle of royal dinner preparation. At this hour, all that energy has dissipated. The palace sleeps. Beck finds comfort in the transformation. The same grand place where he toiled under watchful overseers by day becomes peaceful and almost homey by night. He finishes his water and sits on his mattress, removing his sandals and stretching his achy legs. He is a slender youth, perhaps 16 years old, and his first months in palace service were exhausting beyond anything he'd known. But he's proud to have adjusted to the rigors. His hands bear a few healing burns from oven work, and his arms have grown stronger from lifting heavy sacks of grain. Tonight, those arms and hands throb dully with fatigue. He rubs a sore spot on his forearm. In doing so, his fingers brush a small object tied around his wrist, a leather band with a tiny carved wooden bead. Beck smiles softly. It's an amulet of Bess that his mother gave him when he left his village to come work in the palace. The bead is smooth from years of handling. He lifts the amulet to his lips and whispers a few words his mother used to say. Bess, keep the nightmares far away. He remembers how, as a child, whenever he woke from a bad dream in his family's modest home, his mother would be at his side, holding her own Bess amulet and murmuring words of comfort just like those. The memory is sweet and a little sorrowful. He hasn't seen his family in many months, but knowing they sleep under the same stars gives him solace. In fact, he imagines that at this late hour, his parents and siblings, back in their farming village, are likely sleeping on their roof, just as Hori's family is, with the cool night wind blowing. The thought that somewhere far downriver his loved ones are peacefully at rest helps Beck feel less alone in the palace's vast silence. He lies down on his mattress and pulls the linen blanket up to his chest. The straw stuffing rustles as he shifts to find a comfortable position, settling on his side facing the gently glowing hearth. Through the open archway that leads out of the kitchen to an herb garden beyond, a square of night sky is visible. Beck can see a few bright stars twinkling above the dark outline of the palace roof. He wonders which star might be shining over his home village right now, and if his younger sister might be looking at that same star before she falls asleep. He decides one of the particularly bright stars must surely be watching over his family, and another watching over him. From somewhere in the distance of the palace complex comes the faint clang of a metal gong, the night watchman marking another hour past. The sound echoes briefly through the corridors and then fades. Beck knows that throughout the night, guards patrol the palace walls to keep the royal family safe. Sometimes he can hear their soft footfalls or the quiet bark of the watchdogs they led on leashes, but the palace interior is secure and calm. Most of the royal household and staff are slumbering deeply. In the hush of the kitchen, Beck's eyes grow heavy. The soft red glow of the embers is hypnotic, and the gentle warmth radiating from them eases the last knots of tension in his muscles. He turns onto his back and allows his gaze to roam up the ceiling where shadows play. He can make out the faint painting that decorates a beam overhead, a motif of protective vultures with outspread wings, symbolic guardians watching over those below. The sight gives him comfort. Protected from above, and with Bess's amulet on his wrist, he truly feels that he is sheltered despite being far from his own home. His mind drifts over the events of the day, the dozens of loaves he baked, the thrill of carrying a tray of fresh bread into the royal dining hall, where he caught a glimpse of the pharaoh himself at dinner seated on a golden chair, and the compliments he overheard one noble guest pay to the softness of the bread, praise that indirectly honored Beck's own work. A tiny pride kindles in his chest at that memory. It's an honor to play even a small role in the great machine of palace life. He thinks. And now the machine rests. Its gears quiet until dawn, and he too can rest. Beck yawns, his jaw stretching until his eyes water slightly. He tucks one arm under his head on the rolled cloak and pulls his blanket snug around his shoulders. Over in the corner, the other kitchen boy shifts with a mumble in his sleep, but doesn't wake. A palace cat slips silently into the kitchen doorway, a lithe shadow in search of mice drawn by the grain stores. Beck hears the soft padding of paws, and then the faint squeak of a mouse caught unawares. Natural guardians are at work. The cat will ensure the palace storerooms remain free of vermin. Beck smiles to himself, grateful that these feline hunters prowl. It means fewer unwelcome nibblers around him in the night. Before surrendering to sleep, Beck offers a final prayer in his thoughts. He prays for the pharaoh's well-being, as he has been taught, because the pharaoh is the life of the land. He imagines the great pharaoh himself, resting in his distant gilded chamber, perhaps already asleep beneath fine linen and protective charms. In sleep, for a little while, king and commoner alike find the same peace and vulnerability. But Beck also prays in a more personal way, for his own family's health back home and for the strength to do his duties well tomorrow. His lips move silently. May the gods watch over this house of Pharaoh and over all of us within it. His prayer finished, Beck allows his eyes to fully close. The ember light dances behind his eyelids for a moment, then even that fades as the coals cool further. In the quiet, he listens to his own breathing and the slow, steady drip of water from a recently scrubbed basin, a rhythmic metronome marking the passing seconds. Drip, 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 each drop slower than the last. Soon, Beck drifts into a light sleep. In his half-dreaming state, he imagines the palace gardens under the moonlight, the reflecting pools, still and glassy, the scent of lotus blossoms in the air. He sees himself walking through the colonnades at dawn, carrying trays of fresh bread, sunlight just starting to gleam on the polished floors. This calming vision merges with reality as his body relaxes completely. Now the young servant sleeps soundly, the gentle rise and fall of his chest beneath the thin blanket the only movement. Around him, the great palace remains hushed. The pharaoh in his opulent chamber, the nobles in their plush beds, the other servants in their cots, all lie under the same deep night, each person a silent dreamer in the darkness. Beck's faint smile as he sleeps suggests that his dreams, perhaps of home or simple joys, are kind to him this night. In the stillness of the royal residence, his small corner becomes a world of its own, safe, warm, and at peace beneath the silent gaze of the stars. Midnight in Egypt dreams under the endless sky. The night deepens to its fullest dark. Midnight in ancient Egypt is a time of profound stillness and gentle mystery. The Great Nile flows quietly, a black ribbon reflecting the glow of stars and a sliver of moon. Along its banks, villages and towns lie in slumber. The desert beyond the river is hushed, its sands cooled and silvered by moonlight. If one listens closely, one might hear the distant howl of a lone jackal on the dunes, or the soft whisper of palm fronds as a mild north breeze sweeps down the river's course. The Milky Way, that vast river of stars, arcs overhead, and Egyptians see in it a heavenly Nile or the outstretched form of Nut herself. In the northern sky, a few starry points never vanish below the horizon, the imperishable stars, and to the Egyptian mind these undying lights are souls of the blessed, shining eternally to assure the living that the cosmic order holds even in the darkest hours. Off in a remote oasis, a caravan of traders sleeps around a crackling campfire, their camels huddled nearby. They have journeyed by day under the scorching sun, and now relish the cold night, each traveler wrapped in a cloak and gazing at the same constellations until his eyes grow heavy. The desert night is vast and silent around them, yet they feel the familiar kinship of the sky above, knowing that the same stars watch over their loved ones in villages far away. In every corner of the two lands, the stars shine down impartially, and the world is wrapped in a gentle blanket of dark. The ancient Egyptians do not take such dreams lightly. They believe dreams can carry messages from the gods or visits from the spirits of departed loved ones. Often, upon waking, one might consult a dream book or a wise interpreter to glean meaning from particularly striking visions. But on this night there is little ambiguity. These dreams bring only gentle reassurance, a silent blessing bestowed by benevolent forces. And so, under the watch of the quiet stars, the farmer, the noblewoman, the priest, the artisan, and the servant all journey through landscapes of dream tailored to their hopes and hearts. In these private theaters of the night, they find reassurance, joy, and communion with what they hold sacred, be it family, gods, art, or home. The vast Egyptian night remains tranquil around them. No disruptive noise or nightmare intrudes, for their prayers and protective amulets stand guard. It is as though all of Egypt slumbers in Nut's gentle embrace. In each home, the little effigies of Bes and Tauret stand silent guard. In mosquito-prone areas, a fine mesh linen net might be draped around the bed, and a grinning dwarf god and kindly hippo goddess are believed to ward off any roaming evils of the dark. Every precaution is in place, and every sleeper, young or old, rich or poor, is watched over by both human love and divine protection. The goddess Nut carries the sun god safely through the underworld in her own cosmic dream, while below, her children dream in peace. It is as though all of Egypt slumbers in her gentle embrace. Each home, the little effigies of Bes and Tawere stand silent guard. A gauzy linen net or closed lattice keeps out biting mosquitoes. A grinning dwarf god and a kindly hippo goddess ward off any lurking malice. Every sleeper is cradled by mortal care and divine guardianship alike. Far to the east, a faint blush of dawn begins to touch the horizon. The deep blue of night softens into a lighter hue. One by one, the stars that ruled the darkness blink out, yielding to the early light. In the countryside, a rooster's crow pierces the pre-dawn hush, its clear call carrying over fields still cloaked in faint mist. The great cosmic cycle turns once more. Night yields to day, and sleeping souls edge toward wakefulness. Dew has settled on the grasses and the reeds by the river, tiny droplets shimmering like beads of silver as the sky's color shifts from indigo to pale ivory. On the village rooftop, Hori is the first in his family to awaken. Even before the sun's disk breaches the horizon, the roosters of the village have made sure every farmer is aware morning is near. Hori blinks his eyes open to the dim silvery light. The air is noticeably cooler, and a faint haze hovers above the ground in the distance where the Nile lies. For a few breaths, he lies still, orienting himself from the realm of dreams back into the world of clay and earth. His arm is still draped over little Kem, who sleeps on obliviously. Gently, Hora extricates himself so as not to wake the boy or Layla. Both mother and children remain curled under the linen sheet, their faces peaceful in the pearly dawn light. Hori sits up, stretching quietly. There's a slight stiffness in his back from yesterday's labors, but the night's rest has restored much of his strength. He rises to his feet and steps away from the sleeping area. On the roof, the breeze brushes past, cool and fresh. The eastern sky grows more radiant by the moment. Sunrise is minutes away. The farmer silently mouths a salutation taught by his father. Welcome, Ra. Thank you for returning. It's not a formal ritual, just a personal habit born of gratitude that the sun has once again come back. He descends the wooden ladder to the courtyard. The ground is cool under his bare feet. In the pale dawn light, he moves to the clay water jug and pours some into a bowl. Splashing the cold water onto his face and over his head, he shivers slightly at the chill, but feels fully awake afterward. Droplets trickle down his arms and chest. With wet hands, he slicks back his dark hair. The sky in the east shifts from ivory to a delicate pink and gold. A bird trills from a rooftop, perhaps a bulbul's or sparrow greeting the day. Layla appears at the top of the ladder, draped in her shawl. She has woken and noticed her husband gone. Rubbing sleep from her eyes, she smiles down at Hori. Good morning, she calls softly, careful not to wake the children above. Hori returns her greeting with a broad, affectionate smile. There is unspoken joy in the shared glance of a new day. Layla climbs down, carrying baby Nala in her arms. The little girl has woken as well and clings to her mother's neck, still half asleep. Kem, the older child, can be heard stirring on the roof, mumbling sleepily for his mother. Layla hands Nala to Hori for a moment and goes back up the ladder to fetch the boy. Hori cradles Nala, swaying gently on his feet. The infant's warm, soft cheek rests against his shoulder. She emits the sweet, milky breath of a small child, and Hori's heart swells with tenderness. He whispers a quiet promise to the girl, that he will work hard today as every day to keep her fed and safe. Over the roofline behind him, the first sliver of the golden sun peeks up, flooding the courtyard with a tender-illed early light. Morning has broken. As his family assembles in the courtyard, Hori notices the world around him coming alive. A pair of oxen in a nearby pen shuffle and low softly, eager for their morning fodder. A neighbor's voice calls out a cheerful greeting across the lane. From the river beyond the fields comes the faint splash of a ferryman's oar and the honk of wild geese, flying low over the water. These sounds carry easily in the still air. Within their own yard, Hori's wife has already knelt to rekindle the hearth fire from last night's embers. She hums under her breath an upbeat work song, her energy renewed. As Layla tends the small fire, Hori steps over to their little animal pen. The family's goat bleats eagerly, already awake and hungry. Hori chuckles and grabs a handful of clover and leftover vegetable greens from a basket. He tosses the fodder into the pen, where the goat and a couple of hens nibble contentedly. It's a routine chore, but one he performs with gentle care each morning. He knows the animals, like his family, rely on him to start their day. Layla has now coaxed the fire to life and places a pot of barley porridge on to cook. The rich smell of grain begins to mingle with the fresh morning air. Hori, still holding little Nala, approaches and kisses his wife's forehead in a quiet morning greeting. She smiles and passes him a wooden cup of beer she had covered overnight, a mild, nourishing brew appropriate for breakfast. Hori sips the cool liquid gratefully. Kem, now fully awake and rubbing his eyes, toddles into the courtyard with a linen blanket draped around him. Layla scoops him up and points toward the eastern sky. The sun has cleared the horizon now, a bright disk edging above the palms. "Look, Kem, Ra is back," she says softly in the sing-song voice of a mother teaching her child. The boy, still waking up, rests his head on her shoulder and squints at the gleam of sunrise. He isn't as interested in the sun as he is in the bread he knows will be given him soon, but he listens to his mother's gentle words anyway. The farmyard is awash in golden morning light. Dew sparkles on the leaves of the fig tree by their wall. From the fields, a dove rises with a sudden flutter of wings, making the children jump and then giggle. Hori laughs quietly and adjusts Nala on his hip. In that moment, everything feels right and promising. They have all awakened to a new day, safe and together. Hori silently offers a word of thanks to Ra and to the household gods for watching over them through the night. Not far away, Merritt's estate is also greeting the dawn. Inside her bedroom, the lattice windows now admit a growing brightness. The oil lamps have burned out, leaving only wisps of incense scent and the coming of day to rouse her. In the garden beyond, birds are twittering in the sycamores and rose bushes. One persistent thrush lands on her windowsill and trills a few notes, as if impatient for the sun to rise higher. Merritt stirs in her sleep, drawn toward wakefulness by the chorus of birds and the faint light against her closed eyelids. She sighs softly and rolls onto her back, stretching beneath her light linen sheet. Slowly, her eyes open. For a few moments, she lies still, listening. She can hear soft footsteps in the corridor, Tia or another servant beginning the morning routine. Further off, through the window, come the gentle sounds of gardeners already at work, watering the lawn and gathering flowers for the household's daily offerings. Merritt sits up, propping herself on one elbow. The painted stars on her ceiling are now pale and ghostly in the dawn light. She blinks and rubs her eyes. The dream of the night lingers at the edges of her mind. She recalls her grandmother's presence and the feeling of reassurance. It brings a slight smile to her lips. She swings her legs over the side of the bed and places her feet in her wading slippers. Tia knocks softly and enters, carrying a tray with a steaming cup of barley and cinnamon tea and a plate of fresh dates and figs. She smiles to see her mistress already awake. "Good morning, my lady," she says quietly. Merritt returns the smile. She truly feels rested and renewed. She stands and allows Tia to drape a soft robe over her shoulders. Taking the warm cup in her hands, Merritt steps to the window and looks out. The sun has just cleared the garden's eastern wall, setting the tops of the date palms aglow. The pond below reflects the sky's new colors. In that reflection, white lotus flowers can be seen slowly opening for daytime. A few fish stir the water's surface as they nibble at early insects. Everything looks washed and new in the morning light. Merritt inhales deeply the scent of moist earth and blooming roses that wafts in. She closes her eyes and offers a brief, silent prayer of thanks to Ra for returning and to Isis for protecting her family through the night. At that moment, a soft babble from inside the villa catches her ear, the voice of her young son stirring awake in the adjacent nursery. Merritt's eyes light up. Setting aside her cup, she steps out of her room just as the nurse is bringing the child toward her. The toddler reaches out with chubby arms, and Merritt gathers him up, hugging him close. The boy's warm weight against her and his little morning giggle are the perfect blessings to start her day. She kisses the top of his soft head and silently thanks Isis once more for safeguarding him through the dark. With her son now secure on her hip, Merritt returns to the balcony for a moment, showing him the brightening garden and the raw sun he loves to point at. The child claps at the sight of a butterfly fluttering through the sunlight. Merritt laughs softly, her heart brimming with love and the sense that the promise she felt in her dreams is manifest in the simple joy of this dawn moment. Before long, other members of Merritt's household begin their duties. Servants open shutters to let in the fresh air. In the kitchen, cooks are grinding barley for bread and heating yesterday's leftover stew for breakfast. Merritt's little son squirms to be put down. He's eager to toddle after the house cat that has appeared to sun itself on the balcony railing. Merritt sets him down and watches, amused, as the boy totters toward the cat with open arms. She feels deeply grateful in this moment for the calm night that passed and for the bright day now beginning. Within the high walls of Karnak, in the temple of Amun, dawn's first light filters into the courtyard where Anku and several priests are already awake. The eastern sky turns a pale gold behind the distant pylons. The air is crisp, and the lotuses in the sacred lake begin to open, their white blossoms reflecting on the still water. Anku has risen well before sunrise to perform the temple's morning ritual. He stands now at the temple's open eastern gate, facing the direction of the sun's rising. The other priests on duty stand in a line with him, all clad in spotless white linen, their shaven heads bowed in anticipation. The world is quiet, In these moments, birds flit among the papyrus stands by the lake, and a pair of sacred geese honk softly as they paddle across the water, a gentle fanfare for the coming dawn. As the golden edge of the sun peeks over the horizon, Anku and the others raise their arms in unison to salute the newborn sun. It is a graceful movement, performed in silence except for the faint rustle of linen and a collective exhale of breath. Anku's heart floods with devotion as he silently recites a hymn he knows by heart. Awake in peace, O Ra, rising in glory, illuminate the two lands with your rays. We live anew when we see your face, all praise to you at the dawn. The first sunlight spills into the temple courtyard, illuminating the priests' faces and touching the tops of the columns with a warm glow. Overhead, the last stars vanish into the growing day. Anku feels a familiar thrill. Each morning, it is as though the sun is born again, and with it, hope and order are renewed. The temple around them stirs to life. In the sanctuary, Anku and two higher-ranking priests break the clay seal and open the great doors, allowing fresh light to pour over the gilded statue of Amun within. The god's face, gold-leafed and serene, shines in the dawn's radiance as if coming alive for the day. Anku enters reverently, inhaling the faint scent of incense left from the night and preparing to help in the first offering of the morning. He gently removes the linen covering that was placed over the god's statue the previous evening, symbolically waking the deity, while another priest rings a small sistrum, a ritual rattle, to gently announce the new day to the god. A thin wisp of incense smoke curls upward as they light fresh frankincense. Anku places a tray of natron salt and cool water at the feet of the statue as a purification offering. The rays of the rising sun now stream directly through the temple doorway, bathing the interior in soft light and dispelling the night's shadows. Anku's soul soars with quiet joy. He is keenly aware of the continuity of what he does. Each dawn, this ceremony has been enacted in this temple for generations untold, and now he is part of that unbroken chain. He steps back as the high priest on duty begins the formal morning hymn to awaken the god. Anku's role now is to fetch fresh bread and beer from the storage to offer to Amun as breakfast, and he slips away to do so with swift, dutiful steps. As he crosses the courtyard again, a shaft of sunlight catches the water of the sacred lake, making it glitter. Anku pauses a moment to appreciate it, the beauty of morning in this holy place. He feels fully alive and in Ma'at, in harmony at this instant, aligned with the rhythms of the cosmos. The peaceful night gave way to this glorious dawn, and he is ready to serve through the coming day. The dream of flying as a ba that he experienced in the night lingers as a pleasant memory, like a secret blessing he carries within. With a serene smile, he continues on to retrieve the offerings, the temple abuzz now with quiet, purposeful activity and the promise of a new day. In the artisans' village west of Thebes, the first golden beams of sun reach over the cliffs, striking the whitewashed walls of the workmen's houses. A government messenger with a staff walks down the lane, knocking on each door in turn, the customary wake-up call summoning the crew to work on the royal tombs. He raps on Senmut's door, and moments later Senmut opens it, already dressed and alert after his solid night's sleep. "Awake and ready, friends?" calls the messenger with a grin, not really doubting it. "Aye, wide awake," Senmut responds good-naturedly. He gathers his tools, the leather bag with his brushes and pigments, and steps out into the cool morning. Nadja is beside him, handing him a small parcel of yesterday's bread and some dried dates for his midday meal. She fusses gently with his kerchief, making sure his head is covered from the expected sun later. "Come home safe and hungry," she says with a playful smile, her way of telling him she'll have a hearty supper waiting. Senmut chuckles. "I'll be safe, don't worry," he replies softly. They steal a quick, warm embrace behind the door before he joins the other artisans assembling in the street. Nadja watches from the threshold as her husband falls in with his comrades, heading off down the road toward the Valley of the Kings. They carry their little satchels of tools, chatting and joking quietly to start the day in good spirits. Many of them, like Senmut, have smiles on their faces this bright morning, the lingering gift of a peaceful night. Nadja waves until Senmut and the group just round a bend and are out of sight. The sun is rising steadily now, touching the top of the peak that looms over the royal tombs and the village. The pyramid-shaped mount is bathed in soft, honey-colored light. Soon, Senmut will be walking into the tomb corridors, painting delicate stars on a ceiling or vibrant figures on a wall. But Nadja takes comfort knowing that as he works in that cool darkness, the same sun now shining on her will be shining in his heart, fueled by the rest and inspiration he received overnight. She hefts the empty water jar and heads to the well with a determined stride. Around her, the village is fully awake. Children scamper by with bread in hand. Women laugh and talk as they start their own tasks. The village dogs trot about seeking scraps. Life has resumed its busy flow, but the calm of the night still lingers like a sweet aftertaste. Nadja takes one more moment to tilt her face up to the sky, now a clear, radiant blue, and closes her eyes, whispering a quick thanks to the gods for a good night and a prayer for a good day. Then she ties back her hair and sets about her morning chores, humming the love poem tune that still dances in her memory from the night before. Across the river, the royal palace stirs as well. Beck, ever diligent, has awoken before the dawn light even reached the depths of the kitchen. His internal body clock roused him while the sky was still gray. He immediately set to work rekindling the cooking fires. Now small flames crackle in the ovens, and the comforting smell of baking bread begins to waft through the palace corridors. Beck has already shaped dozens of little dough loaves and slid them into the oven's warmth. Outside, the sun's rays glint off the palace's white-walled facade and the tops of date palms in the royal gardens. Inside the kitchen, Beck wipes his flour-dusted hands and steps to the courtyard well to draw fresh water. As he hoists the bucket, he glimpses a reflection of the brightening sky in the water's surface and hears the palace's resident pigeons fluttering from their dovecotes, starting their day. A cool morning breeze dances through the herb garden, rustling the dill and parsley. Beck pauses for just a heartbeat to savor it, the gentle start of another day in what was once an intimidating alien environment, but now almost feels like home. He returns to the kitchen with the bucket of water. His fellow kitchen helper is now up as well, tending the porridge pot for the household servants' breakfast. The two boys exchange a friendly nod. Beck hums the same lullaby tune his mother used to sing. He woke with it in his head after dreaming of her. and the other boy finds himself humming along without even knowing the song, simply because it's soothing. Throughout the palace, lamps are being lit, shutters pulled back, and the routines of day begun. Housemaids quietly sweep the courtyard stones free of fallen leaves. Stable hands feed and water the horses, who whinny softly in appreciation. In the royal chambers, attendants gently draw curtains aside to let the sunbeam's first touch awaken their noble masters. Beck ladles out some of the fragrant porridge into bowls for the kitchen staff and sets aside a portion of fresh bread for his own breakfast. He allows himself a brief moment to munch a date and sip a cool draught of water. As he eats, he thinks back to his dreams of home and smiles. Perhaps in a few months, when the inundation comes and work slows, he might get leave to visit his family. He imagines surprising his mother at the doorway of their hut, taller and stronger than when he left, and presenting her proudly with a perfect loaf of bread baked with the skills he's learned here. The thought fills him with happiness and motivation. A senior cook bustles in, already giving orders for preparing the pharaoh's morning meal. Beck snaps out of his reverie and answers with an obedient, upbeat, "Yes, mistress." The cook doesn't see the contented smile behind his dutiful expression, but it's there nonetheless. As he moves to grind barley for the royal porridge, Beck notices the sun fully spilling into the kitchen now, illuminating every dusty corner and chasing away any vestige of night's shadows. Out in the palace gardens, the lotus blooms open on the ponds, perfuming the air that will soon waft through the hallways. The great palace, like all of Egypt, is awake and alive, but a piece of the night's gentle balm stays in the hearts of those who slept soundly. Across the two lands, one by one, all our characters greet the day. The farmer shoulders his hoe and walks out to his field under the early sun, a spring in his step as he sets to work beside the shining irrigation canals, but not before kissing his wife and tousling his son's hair, leaving them to carry on their own tasks at home. The noblewoman, dressed in fresh linen and gold jewelry once more, strolls through her garden with her son toddling at her side, both of them basking in the gentle warmth of the first sunbeams as servants bring out morning bread and milk. The priest stands at the temple gate after the morning rites, watching the city beyond come alive and murmuring a brief thanks to the gods that the balance of another day has been established. The artisan, down in the tomb, mixes his pigments in a shell palette by lamplight, but he feels the sunlight in his heart. He hums the tune he sang to Naja the previous night while he paints tiny stars across a dark blue ceiling, each dot an echo of the real sky he enjoyed just the hours before. The young servant in the palace kneels before the hearth, pulling out golden loaves of bread that will soon grace the pharaoh's breakfast table, and as the steam warms his face, he whispers a quick prayer of gratitude for a new day and the chance to do his work well. The sun god Ra has emerged victorious once more from the darkness of night, steering his bright boat into the sky. In doing so, he has dispelled the stars and the fears of the night. For the Egyptians, this daily triumph is no mere routine of nature. It is a renewal of hope and order. The link between sleep and death is not lost on them. Indeed, they see death as a prolonged sleep and even furnish their tombs like bedrooms, complete with beds, headrests, and linens, to ensure the departed can rest comfortably in eternity until the hoped-for awakening in the afterlife. Each night, as they surrendered to slumber, they trusted that, like the sun, they too would rise again. Each dawn, then, is a small resurrection, a promise kept. In their language and their rituals, sleep and awakening are tied to death and resurrection. In the coffin texts, it is written, "O sleeper, awaken, raise your head." They know that with the morning light comes not just another day, but a reaffirmation that life continues. For centuries upon centuries, while dynasties rose and fell, this gentle cycle of night and day remained unchanged. From the pyramid builders of the Old Kingdom to the sages and nomarchs of the Middle Kingdom, to the priests and artisans of the New Kingdom and beyond, all laid down to sleep under the same stars and trusted in the same sunrise. Times and rulers changed, but the comforting rituals of night endured. As their forefathers knew generations before, and as their descendants will know generations hence, night is nothing to fear when one lives in accordance with Ma'at, the harmony of the universe. Night is a time of shelter and renewal, a mirror of the safe tomb and the embrace of the gods. And when the sun returns at dawn, it carries with it renewal and affirmation. In the grand design of ancient Egypt, sleep is a sacred pause in the tapestry of life, as natural and necessary as the flooding of the Nile or the turning of the seasons. Our friends in this story have shown how, in the stillness of the night, all Egyptians, rich and poor, powerful and humble, partake of the same deep rest and gentle vulnerability. They have their various beds and coverings, their diverse prayers and dreams, but in sleep they are united under Nut's sky, equal in their trust and their need for rejuvenation. And so the story of one Egyptian night ends as the day begins, peacefully, hopefully, and in harmony. As the sun climbs higher and the daytime bustle grows, children laughing, roosters crowing, workers singing at their labor, the memory of the tranquil night remains like a soft melody beneath it all. When the sun sets again and twilight spreads its blue cloak over the land, these people will be ready to embrace the darkness once more, without fear, for they know how people slept in ancient Egypt, calmly immersed in the rhythms of their world, sheltered by faith and tradition, and gently carried into dreams under the everlasting stars. For as day follows night, and night follows day, the people of ancient Egypt lived in tune with their land and their gods, trusting that each dusk would bring peace and each dawn renewal in the endless, gentle cycle that sustained them.